What's up, guys? Vince Reddy here, and yeah, back to my One Piece arc reviews. This one is a big one. It's the length of it is just like I understand that these One Piece episodes. I know what I'm getting myself into when I watch these. They're large, they're big. They can't fit into a lot of the timelines I have. That pretty much when it comes to finishing One Piece at all, like Wano, I have a long way to go. Okay, I gotta finish like a good stack of these, like half a thousand or something. It feels like, or probably 1,000. But man, these episodes just get bigger and bigger. These arcs, though, and it's just crazy how I sort of like at least, and I really want to reference this that I'm all the way to when uh God, who I don't know, the guy with the red hair came and tried to stop the whole thing. And yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen from here. But it's just too big for me to actually like come on, I don't want to forget whatever happened from the other lengths of this arc. So I'm gonna try my best to give like somewhat my short thoughts, if you even can call that. I'm not the best reviewer, and I say that with every review. But when it comes to this, like I don't know if I'm gonna be like vague or something like that, but it's probably for a good reason, knowing that I'm not the man for the job in terms of analyzing every aspect of Marineford. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Marineford, the arc that pretty much is, the Whitebeard arc, in a sense where it's basically him against all odds, but also with his crew that he brings up, which had an interesting entrance when coming in to the Navy Island, as I would call it. The Crescent, the Navy Island, those names. And I probably should give names of the many sorts of characters all around. But who has time for that? Let's be honest. Who has time? Like I know for a fact that when I see so many of these crazy deaths, one that is pretty much especially in the ending, and we're gonna get into spoilers from there. But it's just how crazy and how heavy this show goes into. Like it's just there's certain lengths that pretty much the writers for this particular. And here's the thing, you're this is coming from a person that usually doesn't watch a lot of anime, and specifically action anime like shonens. Like I don't watch that much, but when it comes to One Piece, from my aspects being in the romance community, I kind of am looking at this from that point of view, but also in the point of view of what the characters really wanted, the human interaction of just like each and every one that has a story, especially Whitebeard's, which was pretty deep, and also seeing Ace, which was very deep as well. I've seen how like the relationship just sort of gathers around of just how these pirates came to be, and knowing especially when I keep seeing this island getting destroyed and stuff like that, I'm just thinking like, what is gonna happen with the parents that are gonna come back? Like, aren't they sold out away? Are they gonna come back to their home or something that is destroyed? Like it's destroyed in many lengths, especially with the tidal wave, and then of course, like Blackbeard's power, and just the amounts of just like what's going on within Marineford. It's just crazy that it reached to that impact. But here I am with no notes, no like no skits to write off. Pretty much like I'm doing this off the dome from my memory of Marineford, and I try to make it that way so it's authentic, but also it's like, I mean, maybe because I'm lazy, because I don't have that kind of work ethic of when it comes to reviewing stuff, because I don't review much at all, surprisingly, especially the amount of stuff that I read. You would think I review them. Nah, I just react to them. It's just easier. And I think, but the thing is with this One Piece like review, I'm just imagining like how do anyone reacts to this whole thing? It's too much. But yeah, let's get into it. So pretty much Whitebeard versus the Navy, and also like especially the head Navy being, I call him the golden statue in a ways of all of these other like navies, and pretty much it's like a ceremony itself for Ace's execution. And as we got back from uh, well, got from impelled down to this particular island here in the Navy, it would actually literally change the timeline of everything else. it would set the future in a whole different way that nobody would ever, expect, especially me. And it all sort of like started from here. Now, keep in mind, so many characters to actually go through, and pretty much, but the top ones that I sort of like focus on is Whitebeard, Ace, Luffy, and also like especially like them going up against this army, like as you see here, not to mention the tree gods, basically as I call them, the tree unbeatable that I feel like cannot die, but they can. At least that there's a lot of times that I hope it that I hope they do, but it's like the three guys, the one that actually created the ice wave, this that guy, the guy that took care of Robin, and the other one that is like magma, that is just like a full on volcano. I just call him Magma Man, and of course Kizaru, which is I guess a name that I is the only name I kind of remember out of all of these admirals, these navy admirals that sets the tone of just like how this whole battle would go in a way, at least the way I see it, because everyone played their parts in terms of like getting pretty much going in for the fight, and especially parts where they're like so bloodthirsty, they still like like the amount of energy that goes into actually trying to survive all this. Luffy has a lot of it, and it seems like he's using up a lot of like what his allies have for him, especially Jinbei and also Eva, like Ivanko, that's taking that as for advantage, but also in a good way. Like they owe him a debt a lot, especially for like Jinbei and Ivanko and all of them. And it seems like it's just that I'm just imagining, some random pirate in Whitebeards or in the Navy or whatever, in any sort of crew. It could be in Ivanko's or maybe in like in like the other ships that are somewhat surrounded of any like alliance. But I'm just imagining like them leaving, like I don't know, an omelet, and like, oh, I'll just come back to this after this whatever this whole ceremony is, and they never come back. It's just like that, one of those ideas where it's like this whole arc is so large itself that that omelet is probably like already expired at this point. It's like that at this point, like if you left the faucet, it's probably like don't mind coming back to turn it off, because it's just like your house is flooded at this point. Okay, the fact that all of them are just minding their own business and they can just be normal people, and we do see that through Kobe's mind, that these are literally normal families, normal people. Are they ever gonna come back? I know some of them, especially that's how you pay the price when it comes down to being a soldier, navy, or whatever. But it just seems like, man, that really takes a hit. That really showcases that in a way where it's so real, and you kind of see this from the you know the view of the audience from Sabioti, especially showing that they really showcase that through like the snail, but they instead we got like a little bit here and there of Buggy's part, which I don't understand why Buggy has to be mostly like, it's kind of like he's almost like the first ever vlogger. Hey, it's me, Buggy, and he just like sort of like takes this whole kind of spin with the but what's really going on, even though most people really want to see it, but Buggy wouldn't know. And I feel like that is just like one of the things I don't really like about this whole arc. Buggy and all his like I guess fanboys in a way cheering on, oh, you named Buggy, like no one cares. Okay, I thought I really liked them, but I guess that aspect of that within the Marineford is like so lacking. It's like, okay, whatever, dude. Okay, Buggy's just here. Let's get back to the busyness, and the busyness is just like them all trying to rescue Ace, and you have this whole setup surrounding, especially for Luffy, looking at Whitebeard like some normal person itself, and telling him like I'm gonna rescue him. The amount of guts that Luffy has, like I can't really imagine. Like I don't know, Garp really did something for Luffy to make him strong in a sense, and that was heartbreaking when he Luffy had to punch Garp to, his own grandpa, to actually get save his brother, which is somewhat fulfilling in the ways. And maybe Garp did that on purpose, knowing that I can't do this, I can't do this. There's a sense of family. There's like certain principles in your life that are very tested within this. Do you care about your family? Do you care or not? Do you really care, or do you care about like being blood hungry and having all the power? Like you really sort of see that set on so many of these people that you see on the screen of Marineford. And we also got a good look at Whitebeard's pirates, especially the Phoenix Marco. I mean, and also you got like the one that has like develops like muscles of diamonds. The ones that is like a couple of swordsmen here and there. And also I like seeing the warlords. The seven warlords, I believe. I don't know. It could be seven or five at this point. I don't know what happened to Bartholomew, and also like just instead you just like made a whole army of Bartholomews, but they're not really him. I'm just imagining like what if the real Bartholomew only meant Ivanko, because Ivanko seems to be actually know who Bartholomew is, and maybe the real Bartholomew, not robotic, would actually might know who Eva is, but we don't really get to see that at all, at least from my point of view. Maybe later on within Marineford, because I heard there's like a whole like after show or something, which I can only imagine with the whole timeline. This is have to be something that is very out there. I can only imagine, especially being broadcasted on this now. Does the friend see it? Does Nami see it? Does Sanji see it? This like we all pretty much see them. If you were pretty much all the way up here to Marineford, you could only imagine like what's really going on within their lives, like what's going on within like especially the relationship of like, well, actually not relationship, but you see like like Zoro and the ghost girl that happens to bump into these other soldiers, and also Nami within the cloud, and also like having a cloud mentor or something, as I call it, being the forecast mentor of actually helping the weather. But also just like so Sanji and then the rest and everyone else in the island seeing this, like are they worried about like Luffy in a ways? Like this is a big feat to actually go into of just like this whole thing. I feel like this is the biggest bump in the road, but you have to actually find a way to climb out of it, and it's taking a toll out of you. Like I just want to see the other pirates and see how they're doing, the main characters. But really though, the main focus for this, which made a really big impact and also sort of inspired me in a sense where it's sort of like the whole story writing and also the build up that it builds. Like it's just sort of like there's no way to really describe of just like how the story setting, and how I can only imagine a team storyboards an army that would actually create this in a sense where you have to understand like each character, like which one means more, which one doesn't, what are the sides, who dies, and stuff like that. And speaking of dying, pretty much the ores one that actually he died to actually sacrifice. It feels like every sacrifice really is counted to helping them get achieved to get closer to Ace. And that's really the achievement. And especially how Luffy went all the way out there to get to Ace, as he defeated Garp. Or actually just, Garp just, defeats itself as he, gets Luffy to go up there. It seems like that victory is something that is sort of well deserved. You see the happiness. And it sort of feels like it's been a while since we've seen anyone happy. And it's it's especially for like, Luffy, how he's so serious and willing to do so much, going up against the admirals, going up against the warlords, everything to risk for his brother. And I really do understand that for Ace, he really just felt this emotion, a lot of emotions from seeing all of this go through. This has to be a traumatic battlefield for him, because it just seems that for like Ace, like he just feels like, man, why is everybody rescuing me? I'm just one pirate or something. But you kind of see the loyalty and the love that they're willing to sacrifice so much for Ace. But again, like when I see all this in the beginning, and this is something that I speculate in as a perspective as we get into the spoilers. It's kind of like a lead up in a way. So I'm making a ladder and I'm going up to the spoilers. Here's the thing. The first thing I thought when I see this whole entire army, as you see here, literally the warlords are not the biggest, threat, even though they are. But all thanks to Boa and probably Bartholomew, that I still to this day believe that really saved Luffy. I sort of felt that. Luffy and the other crew members were safe because Bartholomew actually teleported somewhere safe away from the admirals. The Navy admirals are the biggest threat ever, bigger than the guy that the golden statue, bigger than Blackbeard even. Like, they're the biggest threat, these three gods. There's no way of going past them, and I really did speculate that. Now, as we get into the spoilers, as you cover your ears or something like that, I don't know, I try to make the spoiler free, but it's the whole reason why what happened to Whitebeard and what happened to Ace. The amount of stuff that has lost. I get it. I get why Luffy was crushed. There's a part of me where I do understand, especially from Blackbeard's part. I would cry too, like something like he said like that. The amount of fear and emotions of all sorts that is happening to Luffy and the energy. Like literally this kid is filled with energy up to the brim, up to space even. But it seems that that takes a toll out of him due to how, his brother Ace, spoiler, was killed in front of him by the magma god. And it just seems like this unfair, but you see the anger through, you know, Whitebeard. And you kind of see the sacrifice that Whitebeard is doing for his sons. Whitebeard really standing up still to this day, even through his death, as for his sons, his family. That's something that he really wanted. As we get into a glimpse of the past of all of this, and especially this, how the sauce was spilled of just like uh who Ace what is basically, or was, as he is the son of Golden Rogers, which is brought a shock to the whole entire people, and really almost like that's enough to actually change history at itself. But it's not enough knowing that the Marineford had to go. That had to be buried, or at least as Blackbeard said, I'm quoting him a lot, buried under sea. And it's like, it's almost possible he did that. Also, how the heck he got powers from Whitebeard? Two powers I never thought would happen at all. I'm thinking like that has to actually not an unfair advantage for sure, knowing that that's a lot. That's a lot to go through, knowing it's like that amount of power itself. Like, for two fruits or anything, you can tell for Blackbeard's reason that he's power hungry all ever since. And pretty much, it just seems like there was no ending to, the pain and suffering, especially magma for him. It doesn't seem like it's enough to actually, kill already, black, it feels like when all of this was gone, I feel like, the admirals knew for a fact that, there was no point of actually ever showing any mercy at all. I mean, of course they wouldn't show mercy, but also like for what they achieved, like they achieved two things, Ace and Whitebeard. I feel like it's not enough knowing that you have to kill every single pirate that is in that island. Like they all have to go or something like that. And what would that do? Especially for Kobe's. I understand Kobe emotionally because he said, what's the point of killing? At this point, you're all bloodthirsty. You're blood hungry. Even some of the other pirates agree on that, as like, this is not for, this is literally for the worst ideas instead of the good intentions of doing, good for your people or something, but you're all just bloodthirsty and that's all you really care about. And it's just sad to see that, knowing that, especially the pirates, like, I always get this feeling like a good amount of them are gonna die, unexpectedly, of course. But I always had these hopes of knowing, like, oh, Ace is gonna have it. They're gonna have a reunion, especially seeing the intro. Like, it really got me my hopes up, knowing like, oh, Ace and Luffy are gonna, they're gonna come back and they're gonna be like, brothers as usual. But then seeing that, I just couldn't know what else to expect in One Piece anymore. And I get this feeling like, thank goodness that the main characters like Nami, Sanji, and also the Straw Hat crew are not in this, because I don't know how they would survive against the Admirals and everything else. It's literally the Admirals that is the only thing I worry about. That's it. And probably the Golden Statue guy. But you know what I mean. It's literally like the only thing I worry about. The Admirals are like, it's ever since I saw them in Sabaody, especially Kizaru. I'm like, how the hell are you supposed to defeat him? Bartholomew is another question, but Kizaru, that's like a freaking planet. Okay, you gotta deal with. Okay, it's insane. The powers that are just like aligned so much. And maybe this is coming from a person that doesn't watch a lot of shonens, where I'm just like, damn, okay, this can't be right. This can't be right. Come on, you can't do this, right? He can't die. Whitebeard, like, he has to be like able to like survive this, but I'm just looking at his wounds. I'm like, no, it's not possible. Literal holes on him, okay? Like, for all the powers and everything, I'm just always trying to simulate, like, how do they feel? Even though I probably wouldn't want to feel lava on me. But it's just like, how is this going on for so long? Where are the confidence coming from? And you see every pirate of what they're capable of knowing that they can either survive this or they can die. I'm talking about try to be alive at all, or literally just die. It's like there's no ending, and it's like a whole sea of death, like all surrounding him. This has to be traumatizing, especially for Kobe in a ways, because it seems like it just like really got to him. The whole voices in his head really sends a message of just like, what's really going on out there, that there are families from both sides, the Navy and the pirates. And all that family is just sort of like gone in a sense. So many, man, the orphans are gonna be full with what's going on here, because it's just sad to see that, these like, I also imagine that too. But I didn't know that was like sort of a focus that they would get to, even though that would be heartless to think of. But it's like, I didn't know that was like really something that they were gonna address, because that can go without saying. But at the same time, that's true. Navies do have families. The pirates probably have families, and on all sides, these are men. Men and women that are like that have families, of course. Especially speaking of family, we gotta actually see a glimpse of Ace's past, and especially seeing like like how that really develops from him knowing who Whitebeard is and actually how they met, and also seeing how Wiper is. We got way back to the past of like what his dreams and what he achieves, and also he achieves something. It's still standing as he dies. Pretty much actually knowing that Blackbeard and the others weren't cool enough to actually knock him down. I feel like that could have been better, even better than compared to like stealing his power, literally stealing Whitebeard's power and actually using it in a way where it's like, man, it's a whole another field of actually you see this, there's like a bunch of enemies more to come for like Luffy or whoever it is that come across them. It's like that amount, and it seems like it's ongoing. But also for Blackbeard, it feels like he's easily could be a person that could be killed, but all because he has his allies. Like it just seems like like there's no choice, or maybe it's power in a sense. I feel like there's ways to actually kill Blackbeard, but it's sort of like he's the one that actually started all of this in the first place. Ace being captured because of him, and just like the especially what happened to uh Whitebeard, even though that is mostly Magma's fault, the Magma God, and it's like it just seems like all this is like, man, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm just speechless. I'm surprised I'm even talking about this whole entire episode, because there's just a good amount to get into, but it wouldn't be enough. One thing's for sure, I like to really put out Boa Hancock and Luffy. I hope that really is sort of something that I sort of developed. That's why the Warlords is not much of a worry to me. I mean, sure enough, the swordsman guy that actually defeated Zoro was something that I had to be worried about a little bit. And in Moria, like, I'm just like, can we just get rid of this guy? Like, especially for what he has done in the Castle Bark, but or Thriller Bark, and also like Bartholomew, another person to worry about, and also Flamingo and all these. But there's I get this feeling like there's sort of a good amount of them that could actually easily sort of help. Like I'm looking at this like what relationships, what things really fall into for Luffy, what he's capable of, and now actually having the friends and knowing that, especially he's young. That's one of the things where I'm looking at it like like he's young. There's a chance of him living. That's for sure. That's what I feel like I'm holding on to. But he's young, and also like he could have some development with the Warlords, especially for Boa Hancock. Saving him, and also the other pirates as well. There's always that moment of like, ching, oh, stop right there. Oh, as you know, the other character is about to get killed, but got saved by this particular character, and then it's a whole new battle that goes into that. I wish I had enough time to actually share all the aspects of this, but I'm doing this off the dome, and trying my best to actually really talk about it. But other than that, Marineford was a life changing kind of like, well, not life changing. I gotta calm down. It was like life changing for One Piece itself, for what it really stands for, and the arc and everything. It really sets a whole another threshold of what is to come, and for what I expect more of, like look, I just expect to see the crew members. I expect a big break, and we see a lot of battles. And there is a break of just like them drinking and eating and just having fun and laughing and enjoying life itself. But for this one is totally different, as it's just them trying to get out and trying to stay alive. And I was hoping to see the others stay alive. I feel like I was just here for like, I've been watching this, this whole entire episode for like 3 years. It's just, this whole arc feels like 3 years, knowing that it just stretches that long, a battle that goes through. But I feel like that's what war is. It feels like centuries. And you just wish, and you just know, like, feel like, or expect to actually get out of there freely, if, as you can. But it's so much to actually expect. On that, I'll see you when I see you. I mean, pretty much Marineford was really heavy. It was so good, and it really sets the timeline for like what is to come for, like Luffy, his future, even though he's like probably still like traumatized of just like what happened to his brother. But man, just that moments of just like those moments that he shared with his brother was always memorable, especially with Whitebeards, for what he has done for his sons. As he said, he wants a family, and he did. And we got good timelines of that. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Pretty much, this is not the best review for actually Marineford, as I put it, but it's enough for me to actually really talk about, just the amount of all this madness that happened within Marineford.